The first rays of dawn stretched across Langley Air Force Base, painting the flight line in a soft golden haze. The air was thick with jet fuel and sea salt drifting in from the Chesapeake Bay, a mix that clung to uniforms, metal and memory. Sergeant Aaliyah Brooks walked briskly across the tarmac, her boots striking against the concrete in steady rhythm. She carried a toolkit in one hand, coffee in the other, her name patch barely visible under a smear of oil. Around her, the giants of the sky, F-22 Raptors, stood in silence, their angular bodies glinting under the rising sun like sleek predators waiting to awaken. She wasn't a pilot. She wasn't an officer. She was maintenance crew, the invisible force behind every mission, the hands that kept the birds flying. Her morning started before the first engine roar. Checking fuel pumps, recalibrating pressure valves, inspecting hydraulic lines, the kind of work no one noticed until something went wrong. She wiped soot from the Raptor's titanium skins, every movement practiced, methodical, almost reverent. The pilots she worked for rarely remembered her name. To them she was Brooks, or just Sergeant, someone who signed the forms, gave the thumbs up, and disappeared into the background. But Aaliyah never complained. When the jet screamed into the sky, she'd pause her work for a moment and look up, squinting against the sun. She could tell which pilot was flying by the way the aircraft tilted during takeoff, the rhythm of their maneuvers. She had a gift, a mechanic's instinct, an ear for the sky. After every shift, when the base quieted and the last echoes of turbines faded, Aaliyah would sit by the edge of the runway on an old metal crate. Beside her sat a small, battered radio receiver she'd rescued from a junk pile months ago. She'd rebuilt it in secret, replacing tubes, rewiring circuits, sanding off the rust until it hummed like new. Through its static, she listened to the pilot's comms traffic, clipped voices, call signs, tactical chatter. Raptor 1, turning heading 215, copy. Raptor 2, eyes on target. Their words became her lullaby. She memorized their tones, their rhythm, their confidence. Each voice painted a picture in her mind. Brave men and women carving their names into the clouds. And sometimes, when no one was around, she whispered into the silence, pretending she was part of them. Falcon Echo, ready for takeoff. It sounded ridiculous even to her. She was just a ground crew tech, a speck among legends. But the dream stayed with her. Her friends teased her for it. You? A call sign? Please, Brooks, they don't give pilots names to wrench turners. She'd just laugh and shrug, though something deep in her chest ached. Maybe not yet, she'd say softly. But one day they'll call me by name. And as an F-22 thundered overhead, its shadow sweeping across her face, Aaliyah Brooks smiled, because somewhere inside, she knew the sky already knew who she was. The morning began like any other, engines roaring, crews shouting over the noise, and jets slicing through the humid Virginia air. But by noon, Langley Air Force Base was different. The sky, once clear and blue, had turned into a heavy blanket of gray. The winds carried the smell of rain and static, the kind that prickled the back of your neck before a storm. Inside the control tower, technicians whispered about the sudden interception drill. 2 F-22 Raptors, call signs Raptor 1 and Raptor 2, had been scrambled on short notice. It was supposed to be a simple maneuver, a test of radar lock-on efficiency. Nothing dangerous, nothing unusual. But as soon as the jets climbed above 15,000 feet, the first rumble of thunder cracked across the horizon. Control? This is Raptor 1. We've got turbulence forming fast. Copy that. Raptor 1. Keep formation and adjust bearing east. Those were the last clear words they heard. Within minutes, the storm swallowed the sky. Clouds thickened into a dark spiral. Rain slashed against the radar dishes, and lightning flashed so close that even the ground crews flinched. Inside the control room, the giant radar screen flickered, then went black. We've lost telemetry. Switch to backup radar. Sir, the system's down, it's fried. The room filled with panic. The communication lines hissed with pure static. The emergency backup frequency, meant to survive any outage, was silent too. No voices. No signals. Nothing. At that same moment, Aaliyah Brooks was in Hangar 12, cleaning hydraulic fluid from a landing gear strut when she overheard the commotion. The tension in the air was unmistakable. Voices raised, boots pounding, radios crackling uselessly. Something inside her stirred. That instinct she always had, the one that made her listen to the sky. She sprinted to the corner of the hangar, where, beneath a dusty tarp, sat the old comm terminal she'd been secretly rebuilding for months. It was outdated, analog, and barely functional, but Aaliyah had coaxed it back to life piece by piece, soldering wires during lonely night shifts while others slept. She flipped the switch. The terminal hummed weakly. The green glow of its screen was dim but steady. She took a deep breath, her fingers hovering over the dial as thunder cracked again outside. "Come on. Work," she whispered. Static filled the room, harsh, broken, alive. She adjusted the frequency by instinct, tuning to the emergency band she'd memorized from listening to pilots chatter all those nights before. Then, she pressed the transmission key. Her voice was calm, steady, almost commanding. "This is Falcon Echo. Does anyone copy?" For a moment, only silence. Then, through the roar of static, a faint, disbelieving male voice replied, "Falcon Echo? Who the hell is that?" Aaliyah's heart pounded. The storm outside howled, lightning flickered across the hangar walls, and for the first time in her life, the sky was listening back. Aaliyah's hands trembled as the static screamed in her headset. The storm outside was relentless, sheets of rain hammering the hangar roof like war drums. But deep inside, something in her clicked into focus. Fear was replaced by instinct, training, memory. She'd spent years around these jets, not flying them, but understanding them. She knew the way an F-22 responded to wind shear, the delay in thrust when the afterburners kicked in, the weight distribution when banking through a low cloud. She had studied every maintenance manual like scripture. Now, all of that knowledge came flooding back. "Raptor 1, this is Falcon Echo. Copy my coordinates. You're flying at 13,000 feet. Drop to 10,500 to escape the crosswind." The response came through, broken and faint. "Falcon Echo, repeat. Did you say drop altitude?" "We're blind up here." "Affirmative," Aaliyah said firmly, gripping the mic. "Drop altitude now and turn 5 degrees west. You're crossing the marsh line. Radar interference is bouncing off the storm cells. Trust me." Her voice cut through the noise like a beacon. She could almost feel their fear. Two pilots trapped in a sky turned against them. Outside, lightning forked across the horizon, illuminating the soaked runway. The base had lost radar completely. The control room was paralyzed. And yet, through that single analog terminal, Aaliyah's voice was keeping two $150 million jets alive. She opened a second frequency. "Raptor 2, your formation is too tight. You're flying into Raptor 1's wake turbulence. Separate by 10 degrees or you'll stall." "Falcon Echo, who are you?" one of the pilots demanded. "Doesn't matter," she replied, breath steady. "Just keep your wings level and listen." Her eyes flicked between old radar readouts she'd patched together from memory. Terrain elevations, wind vectors, emergency headings. Every second mattered. One wrong direction, and they'd vanish into the Atlantic. The storm roared, thunder shaking the hangar. Aaliyah could hear the tower behind her, voices arguing, supervisors shouting for answers. But she blocked them out. The only world that existed was between her voice and the two dots she imagined in the dark sky. "Raptor 1, bank left. Good. Hold it. You're clear of the marsh. Raptor 2, climb to 9,800. You're in clean air now." For 20 long minutes, she guided them home, her calm instructions slicing through panic, her tone unflinching. The room that had once seen her as invisible now fell silent, watching her lead two of America's finest aircraft out of the jaws of a storm. Finally, through the static, she heard it. Relief in a pilot's voice. "Falcon Echo. I've got runway lights. We see base." Aaliyah exhaled for the first time in minutes. Through the mist, the twin Raptors emerged, silver wings glistening like wet steel. They touched down one after another, wheels screeching, canopies fogged, engines roaring in triumph. When the hangar doors opened, every eye turned toward her. The commander stepped forward, still stunned. "Who are you?" he whispered. Aaliyah lowered the headset, her face calm despite the tears forming in her eyes. Just a black woman who listens, she said quietly. And outside, as thunder rolled away, 2 jets stood in salute, survivors of the storm she'd tamed with nothing but her voice. The storm had passed, but its echo still lingered over Langley Air Force Base. The runway shimmered under a pale sunrise, puddles glinting like molten gold. The air smelled of rain, jet fuel, and something new: respect. Aaliyah Brooks stood alone near Hangar 12, still wearing the same oil-stained coveralls from the night before. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she could still hear the crackle of static, the faint, desperate voices of the 2 F-22 pilots calling through the storm, and her own voice, calm, unshakable, guiding them home. She didn't do it for recognition. She didn't expect any. In fact, she expected reprimand, maybe even punishment, for touching a restricted comm terminal without permission. But instead, the base was quiet. People passed her in the morning light with strange looks, not the usual dismissal, not indifference. Something else, curiosity, maybe admiration. Then, at precisely 0700 hours, the base loudspeakers crackled to life. The tower chief's voice carried across the tarmac, deep and deliberate. Attention all aircrew. This is command. Yesterday's storm caused complete communications failure during an interception drill. 2 F-22 Raptors were recovered safely thanks to the actions of one airwoman who restored contact using an independent link. The pause that followed felt endless. Every mechanic, pilot, and officer on the flight line froze where they stood. From this day forward, the voice continued, Sergeant Aaliyah Brooks will be recognized for extraordinary initiative and composure under pressure. Her call sign, Falcon Echo. The words hung in the air like music. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then a ripple of applause spread through the hangars. One by one, pilots turned toward her, men and women who had never known her name, and saluted. Aaliyah stood frozen, her throat tightening. She'd spent years blending into the background, invisible among the gleaming aircraft she loved. Now even the jets seemed to glint brighter, as if acknowledging her. The commander approached, the same man who had once walked past her without a word. His uniform was pressed, his voice steady. You didn't just save 2 pilots, he said softly. You reminded this base what it means to listen. He extended a hand. She hesitated, then shook it firmly, her eyes glistening. Later that afternoon, the clouds cleared completely. The sky was brilliant blue, the kind Aaliyah used to dream about when she listened to the pilots chatter alone at night. An F-22 Raptor taxied down the runway, its engines humming like thunder restrained. As it lifted into the sky, the pilot's voice came through the loudspeakers, warm, teasing, alive. Falcon Echo, this one's for you. Aaliyah looked up, shielding her eyes from the sun. The jet streaked across the horizon, sunlight flashing off its wings. In its reflection, she saw herself, not just a mechanic, not just a woman behind the scenes, but a name carried by the wind itself. The sky, once unreachable, finally called her name, Falcon Echo.